Hey guys, as you can tell, I am back home in a very untreated spare room. We use this well, Bethany uses this as her study, and this is the first time that I'm trying it out for video. So I guess it's a good test for the Rode NTG, see how well it deals with the reflections and picking me up from 3-4 feet away. Anyway, before we get into today's Q&A, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone that reached out whilst I was at Middle Farm, this one. I know I seemed a bit down, or just a bit, I don't know what the word is, but I do appreciate people connecting. I say everything's better now, I'm home, so I feel a lot more comfortable now, especially now that I can just sort of hunker down and get on with the work that I'm doing, carry on finishing this record, but also answer your questions. So to get into today's topic about basically songwriting Q&As, I put a question up on Instagram asking whether you'd like me to talk about songwriting or mix help. And I think it was pretty weighted towards songwriting. I got about 30 replies in the end, which is really cool. Some of them require a bit more detail than others, so they may actually end up becoming their own videos, we will see. But in the meantime, I've got all the questions on my laptop here, and I'm just gonna pick the ones that I feel like I can answer succinctly and fairly. So, question number 1. Love_is.music has asked, a lot of pop is hook after hook. How can you effectively apply this to heavier music? I think it's a lot easier to identify the hooks within pop music, but I think hooks within heavier music have existed for a really long time. A really good example of this more recently is probably Bring Me the Horizon, or Architects, or Periphery especially. There's loads. North Lane do it as well. Maybe it's a little less obvious, but first time that I noticed hooks existing within music that were a recurring theme or something that weren't just vocal-based hooks was with Killswitch Engage. You'd have your micro hooks or your smaller hooks, which were guitar-based or percussion-based from the drums, and that would all build up together in line with the vocal hooks. So applying hooks effectively to heavier music comes down to what you feel a hook is. A beatdown can be a hook. And then it's about how you exploit that aspect of the song to your advantage. I think you already can apply it to heavier music. I think it just comes down to the application and how adept you are at applying that thought process. Next question. Chrono.jmb has asked, what is the best way you found to practice songwriting? So when I'm going through these sort of applications with bands that I've not met before, or say they are, on day 4 of writer's block and they don't know how to get beyond it, I'll take them right back to the beginning and talk through songs that they like, songs that they really like. And then we will dissect these songs down to how are they built, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, whatever their structure is, we'll lay out the structure. We'll then look at the next level beyond that about, rather than what's actually happening, but how they choose to transition from section to section. So that will be using a drum filter, sort of move you on to change the pace of something, introducing a new layer to suggest the harmonic content of the section that comes next, and so on. And we'll go through that sort of song lasagna, all the layers, until we get to the crunchy top. I don't know how I've gotten to this analogy, but we're going with it. And once the people that I'm working with or anyone understands how the songs that they like work, I don't tell them to follow it. I tell them to take that and use that as a singular tool to get themselves beyond certain problems. So most people get stuck at around the 1.5 minute point. This is typically, they've done the introduction, they've done the verse, they've kind of done a pre-chorus and a chorus, and maybe, I don't know if it's metal, a heavy section, and then they go, brain fart, don't know how to get there next. This is the point where I go, okay, look at the tools that you've got. How do songs that are similar avoid or get around this issue? Can you apply this to your stuff? If you do, does this mean that you then need to revise how the song starts or the structure of the beginning of the song? Is it that the song and how it is built initially is what's inhibiting you? So this sort of cyclical process of evaluating, re-evaluating, putting stuff in, taking stuff away is how I practice songwriting and get to the point where I can rough out a song with someone in a couple of hours from an initial idea, but the only reason we get to that point is because I'm constantly asking them questions. These questions allow me to filter through that Filofax of song identities that I have, and then we sort of just filter through. So that's my way of practicing songwriting. If that's useful for you, let me know. I'd be quite curious to find out if something similarly can be applied to your own songwriting process. Next question, Marples_mixing has asked, what's my process behind making interesting ambient background sounds? This comes back to one of the previous points that I've made, which is down to texture. A lot of mistakes that I see people making when it comes to ambience is they feel like A, everything needs reverb, B, everything needs the same type of reverb, and D, they're not understanding what the reverb is doing to the content that they are reverberating. It's not just a case of, with ambience, about making something sound spacey. You also need to understand or acknowledge that these reverbs, if they aren't clean and do change the harmonic content or are vintagey or lo-fi, they're going to add a whole ton of junk to the signal, mainly in the lower mids, and they will also start pushing upper harmonics around 1 and 2 kilohertz. Interesting ambient sounds come from intent for me. I think about what I want to achieve ahead of time before I do anything, and then I go and do something based upon that. It's very rare that I'm ever doing anything where it's I wonder what happens if I do this type thing, without really knowing what's going to happen on the other side of that application. That still happens. I do still make time for exploration. It's very rare that it ever just works. However, I am going to double back on myself. The first reverb that I found that had a vibe that didn't make my life very difficult initially is the Soundtoys Little Plate reverb. I think that is a brilliant single dial reverb that has its own character and doesn't tend to get too tricky. And I also love that the reverb goes up to infinity. That is very useful. I'll have to go over that why in future, but that's how I approach ambience and background noises. Next, so Ash Green, if you don't know, he is in the band Holding Absence. He is their drummer. They just did a new song. It is, I'll put it there. Go and have a listen. My friend Adam Get Good mixed that one. He actually submitted a question saying, which instrument do you like to start with, I guess when writing most of the time, and why? When I'm working with bands that have drummers and bassists, typically, if we're starting from scratch and we're plotting out things, I will take whatever their foremost instrument is. So if they're very percussion driven, we'll start with drums. If they're very guitar driven, we'll start with guitars. If they're very vocal driven, we'll start with vocals. And then we'll build backwards from there, basically. I try and ensure that the writing style is as fluid, or I guess unique to the band as the band is unique. And I'll work around that. So typically, if I'm writing for myself though, or just trying to get an idea out, I'll start with drums and bass. They kind of determine the majority of it, and with programming now, I find it very quick to sketch down those ideas because it gives you a very good sense of rhythm and then also melody quite quickly, and then I build up from there. There you go. Pro tip. Quite a lot of these questions I kind of feel like I've already covered. You know, when a band brings you a song, what are your first few steps in breaking it down? How do I diversify my writing style? What makes a riff a true hook? I've already covered these. These are all at the beginning of the video. Oh, here's a good one. Okay, so here we go. Chronod.jmb, please change your username. I can't. How do I say that? Has asked, what is the best approach for writing vocals for people that cannot sing? And I have also done a video on this, linky here, link down there, all the pointing stuff. I've already done this subject, so take a look, watch it. This is how I work with people that have a hard time retaining timing and melody. And it's pretty simple. I think it's only a 5-minute video, so it covers the basics pretty quickly. There we go, songwriting Q&A. Thank you very much for everyone that submitted their questions. Really appreciate it. I think this has been quite cool. It is still raining. I was supposed to work out, but, well, that's what it looks like. Great. Okay, I guess I better get on with the rest of my day. Thank you very much for stopping by. Until next time, don't be a dick. If you have any more questions, leave them down below. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. I do see you lurkers. Come hang out. All right, thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.